Something's been weighing on me, man. You look at what's happening in the world today, everything from the Chinese spy balloon to that trail derailment in Ohio. You look at what's going on in politics. You look about the suppression that Elon Musk proved that was happening on Twitter. Once he bought Twitter, he proved that there was actual information being suppressed on the Hunter Biden laptop scandal. And you kind of start wondering, like, what is happening? Is there somebody, is there something trying to oppress me, trying to tell me how to think, maybe trying to tell me how to live my life, maybe trying to control my income, right? You begin to wonder. And I can tell you this from firsthand experience, man, that absolute power is absolutely corrupt. When any organization has absolute power, there's an absolute corruption that's going to happen because we as humans are not designed to have that much power in our hands. Listen, I don't know if the body has greed glands, but I always call it the greed glands. Like, humans have greed glands. And if you start gaining and you start acquiring and you start possessing a lot of stuff, your satisfaction is not satiated. You're not like, oh, hey, now I feel good that I have 9 homes and 2 private jets and all these cars and all this lifestyle. You actually begin to want more. The greed glands begin to secrete more. And make no mistake about it, man, I'm a free market capitalist. I am all about being jacked and making a lot of money and doing a lot of good with it. But I'm also humbly aware that if I don't manage my greed glands, that I can begin to go tunnel vision on just acquiring and amassing shit and neglecting my family, my life, my friends, and really justifying why acquiring all this shit is good. And so where am I going with this, you might be asking? Well, I'll tell you where I'm going. I'm talking about our current government. I'm talking about mainstream media. I'm talking about big pharma. And I'm talking about the medical industry. And I'm talking about collectively, to me, they are known as the opposition, right? And what they want is they want you as a man to fail. And I'm going to tell you why. And man, I'm speaking specifically to you because if you do anything to empower yourself, you are a threat to the modern day opposition. And again, the opposition being big government, mainstream media, which is the mouth and the voice of big government, big pharma, the medical industry, social media platforms, right? And I realize the social media platforms that I'm on, that I'm using, that you're watching or listening to me on. But the reality is that they do not want you to succeed as a man. So what does success as a man look like? Well, they don't want you to have free thought. They don't want you to have all absolute health. They don't want you to have confidence. They certainly don't want you to have financial freedom and sovereignty. They don't want you to be able to think freely for yourself. And why is that? Because you cannot control a man who is financially sovereign, mentally tough, emotionally disciplined, personally confident, physically strong, and a free thinker. You understand that, right? And so I made this list here of like all the things that you ought to consider doing if you want to be able to stand up against the opposition. Because let's be honest, all of us, every single one of us can tell that something is not right. You could smell it, right? You can smell it. Since 2020, since the pandemic, something is not right. It's almost like there's this acceleration of dumbing down people. There's this acceleration of making people docile and dependent and weak and sick and fearful and doubtful and uncertain. Why is that? The biggest threat to the opposition right now is men who know how to think for themselves, is women who know how to think for themselves, who know how to ask questions, show skepticism, do the research, come up with information, and come to their own conclusion. That is a free thinker. See, if you are not a person who can think for yourself, then the opposition will use social media, mainstream media, television media, movies to begin to teach you how to think, to tell you what is toxic, to tell you what is not tolerable, to tell you that you're racist, to tell you that you are privileged, to tell you that you should hate a certain type and that not all speech should be free and some speech should be censored. And if you begin to buy into that, You are actively a participant in the erosion of our Constitution. The single biggest thing holding this country free is the Constitution that it was born out of. And so what else? Well, think about this. Financial freedom. In the last decade, we've never had this level of debt that this country has had. And by the way, when a country has debt, that means its citizens are all in massive debt. We are in so much debt right now that we got used to, you got used to, looking at big government to give you a handout. And when they gave you that handout, you went and bought shit with it instead of learning to use that money to create more wealth. Understanding how financial literacy works would have helped. But instead, you got that money, whether it's a PPP loan or whether it was the bailout loan, your $1,200 check that showed up in the mail. You're like, it's free money. I'm going to use it. But to do what? And so then they put you in a position to blow through that money, and then they create inflation by jacking up the price of gas, of food, of transportation, of housing, of clothes, of water, of natural gas, of electricity. And they are literally draining your bank account faster than you can fill it. You may not know this, but typical cost of living year over year is about 1.5% to 2.5% increase, right? Normal inflation. We were toying around here the last couple years with inflation rates of 8, 9, 10, 11%. When was the last time that you got a 8, 9, 10, 11% increase year over year in your check, in your payroll? You didn't. And that means you might be making more money today, but you are spending even more than you're making just to sustain the same level of living, if not a lower standard of living. So if I were the opposition, what else would I want to do? I would want to make sure that men are not free thinkers. I would want to make sure that I take away their financial literacy and their financial independence. And then I would want to start negatively impacting your health. Because a man who takes control over his health is a man who is able to then step in the gap when you need to bear your arms, when you need to hold the line, right? And that's the problem with this world, is you have gotten so sensitive that you are not willing to share your thoughts, what's in your mind, what's in your heart, the right thing that you know you need to do because you think other people will take care of it and we will not lose our country, all while they are slowly eroding your rights and your liberties and your freedoms because you choose not to exercise your voice. And if you continue to live in fear and doubt and uncertainty, then they will continue to suppress you. And so this is what's been happening. It's been happening for decades. And since 2020, it has accelerated by at least 10x. And they are making men weak, docile, dependent, insecure, fearful, sick. And you are beginning to buy into it. I know in your heart, I know in your head, you're like, Bedros, I agree with you. So I'm asking you, what are you going to do to stop them? Because they want you to fail. They want to take away your ability to think for yourself. They want to take away your financial freedom. They want to take away your health. They want you to not have a positive mental attitude, live in fear and doubt and uncertainty. They want you to not be connected to a tribe. They want you to be a lone ranger. They want you to be the lone wolf. Guess what? We're meant to be a community. We're meant to be tribal. They don't want you to be disciplined and organized. They don't want you to have the ability to communicate and articulate a message, because if you did, you would be a threat to them. Do you understand that? Because you just might build a social media platform. You just might create a podcast like this. You just might end up building an audience, and you just might end up changing the tides of how the opposition wants this country to end up, which is in the hands of evil. And if you're not going to be that guy who is going to stand the line, then you will always have a life of regret, because you'll wonder, if I just stood the line, if I exercised my voice, if I shared my opinion, if I could articulate a message, if I could start a podcast, a platform, what, do you think it's going to be me and others like me that's going to change the world? Every single one of us together have to change the world. If you truly want to change the world, start by changing one individual. Like, that's how the world changes. What do you think? Oh, well, gosh, if we just get a great president, let's get The Rock in, let's get Jocko Willink in as president, and then they'll change everything. They can't. You know why they can't? There's way too much bureaucracy. There's way too much shit. You and I have a greater chance. Like, I've got the greatest amount of influence in changing the minds and hearts of the 3 dudes that are in this room with me right now. So I have to live a role model life. I have to be an example to them. I have to pull them aside and have the conversations that I feel that they need to hear. And if I don't do that, then I allow the opposition to continue to take control. And so if you are truly on board with this mission, then I'm asking you right now, fellas, start changing the lives of one man and another man and another man by living a role model life. Create financial freedom for yourself. Become a free thinker. Take control of your health. Have a positive mental attitude. Start creating your local tribe of like-minded dudes. Become emotionally disciplined. Set higher standards. Don't fucking marry a crazy chick and then say, like, I married crazy and I have woman problems. You fucking chose her. Don't settle for this shitty job that you have. Like, work your way up. Become a leader in that company. Consider becoming an entrepreneur. Start a second income stream, a third income stream. God knows that if you can solve a problem, people will exchange their money to solve that problem. Figure out what problem you can solve. The internet has made the American dream easier to reach in terms of financial freedom. The internet has allowed the American dream to be within grasp of anybody. Like, look at all the different platforms that are there. But you're so fucking addicted. You're so sick. You're so fat. You're so fucking committed to those video games because those dopamine hits that you're getting that are so cheap. Go into the gym and get the dopamine hits from working out. Walk from sundown to sun up like I do once a year so that you can fucking see what true suffering is, because suffering will introduce a man to his highest self. And when you do that, you begin to build such high levels of confidence and you become so congruent with the man that you want to be, the man that you love, respect, and admire, that you're like, motherfucker, I'm going to go and exercise my voice. I'm going to start changing the people around me. And if you are that convicted, if you are that passionate, you ain't even got to do a goddamn thing, because as a role model, people will be naturally attracted to you and they will want to know what you're doing. And they will begin to adopt and model what you're doing so they can be more like you. Or you can stay fat, docile, sick, broke, weak, pasty, gelatinous, addicted. Just be average. I'm going to tell you this. The average man inspires no one.